This is the weekly review for the week of August 15th to August 19th, as well as this week's Sunday preparation. So, this week did end up playing out as I was anticipating, where we had a raid of previous month's low with a SMT down here in discount of the dealing range, and we ended up trading up to these equal highs and daily fair value gap on DXY, obviously the inverse on Euro to this daily fair value gap here. Now, unfortunately, I did not, or I was not able to capture a lot of that range because my entry on Thursday, so Thursday was primarily the big volume day of the week, was swerved. So that was pretty annoying for me that I had this weekly range pretty much mapped out perfectly and I was not able to take advantage of it. But starting on Monday for Euro, um, initially I was looking for longs because we had these relative equal highs up here, and just based on the weekly power 3 candle, I was anticipating price to trade up from the weekly opening price to form the high of the week Monday or Tuesday and then trade lower. And because we had this set of equal highs up here, the same with GU, um, that's why I was looking for longs on Monday. But price ended up being extremely heavy, and in fact we formed the high of the week on Sunday just after the market opened. um, but I took a long on GU and I got a partial on there, so GU formed a long setup but EU did not. um, we had a higher low SMT here after taking some equal lows, and I got in here on the fair value gap and I took a partial at the low hanging fruit, and I was going to take another partial above this high here, but we never reached up there. And then my final TP would have been up here. But I ended up closing the trade on this candle here at 950. I mean, everything was looking bullish. We had an RTO breaking market structure of the low hanging fruit, and then came back down to this fair value gap and started pushing higher. But this is where we had that SMT with EU. EU was not looking bullish at all. We didn't even form a bullish setup. We just had a bearish setup here inside this fair value gap. And then it got confirmed here at 950 with this break in market structure. And that's where here at 950 I closed the rest of the trade that I had on. And EU didn't give an RTO to a PD array in premium, either the fair value gap or the breaker here. But because price did not trade higher on Monday and we had this bearish setup form, I noted in my in my journal that I felt Monday was going to be the high of the week, or that the high of the week was already in. So Tuesday came and I was not anticipating this run up in price at all. So I was just watching this. We took a weekly swing low here, and we had a SMT with GU, so we formed a bullish setup. The entry on EU is not as clean. Very small fair value gap. Not a lot of clear displacement in comparison to GU. GU had a much clearer setup here with these big impulsive candles up, and then returned to discount in the fair value gap and took out these relative equal highs up here. Same thing with EU. But I was not anticipating a long to form. I was simply just looking for shorts. because of my weekly bias and the fact that I felt the high of the week was already in coming off of Monday. So I was really just watching these equal highs to see if a short ended up forming. It did not. We ended up blowing past those, but we did end up forming a short here based on the Power 3 logic that the high of the day was made at pretty much 11 a.m. London close almost, and then we had this displacement down. So the likelihood of us trading higher, especially with a bearish weekly bias, was low. So that's why I took this short here. Also, we had a SMT with GU, and I was targeting the mean threshold of the daily range that was formed. That's typically what I do with a Power 3 reversal setup, but we didn't end up making it down that, or all the way down there. In fact, there was a H1 fair value gap. I guess I deleted it. But here, so I took a partial around here, and then when I saw price break market structure here and kind of return into this fair value gap, I closed the rest of the trade. Now I noted that it probably would have made sense to just target this liquidity here, even though it wasn't exactly at the premium discount level or mean threshold, simply because we had these relative equal lows and the top of the H1 fair value gap. There was nothing really here at the mean threshold to target, so I noted in my journal that I probably should have targeted this level here rather than the mean threshold. But it was still overall a logical trade. And then GU didn't form a setup because we didn't have the break in market structure until here. But DXY did have a comparable bullish setup, so that gave me more confluence in taking the short on EU. So Wednesday, Wednesday was kind of a mess for EU specifically, New York session. So London gave clear short trades. Obviously, I don't trade London, but we had a SMT with previous day's high with GU, break in market structure, came up into premium, sold off to take the London low. Same thing with GU. Very nice trades in London. Now, I was watching for an institutional order flow entry drill on both EU and GU to take price lower. Now, GU, I ended up going with GU because for EU, price was bullish. We had this bullish setup form here with this SMT, break in market structure, and this bullish fair value gap here. And also EG was looking very bullish. So that's why I went with the short on GU. And that ended up playing out because we only took London low. So this was what I was mapping out for a short on EU. And yeah, we did get a fill, but I would have only taken a partial here and then gotten stopped out. Where GU was more of a classic sell day, and we kept the high of the day in. Now, I fucked up on GU here because I was extremely impatient, and at 8:30 we had high impact news, right? So I wanted to make sure I got in the trade here before 8:30, and that's why I kind of marketed in here at this M15 fair value gap, even though I would have liked to get in here, but because we had high impact news at 8:30 right here on this candle, that's why I got in a little bit early, still inside the fair value gap, so it was a decent entry. But after the news, we ended up consolidating, and I was just impatient and scared, especially watching EU kind of be bullish here. So I closed the trade, Um, and then we ended up running up here. There was no news here, but we just ended up running up to the fair value gap. We still respected my trade setup, came back down into this fair value gap here, and then this was FOMC, still respecting the trade, and then we took previous day's low, which was what I was targeting on Thursday. So even though my analysis was right, I would have had to hold through all of this shit, right? And just mentally, this would have been a mind fuck, honestly, if I was looking at the charts. So what I noted in my journal was that this is just one of those days where partials are like super important. Taking a partial here at the low-hanging fruit and top of the fair value gap, another one here at the bottom, and then holding another, or the last portion for the previous day's low. Because it obviously not every setup is going to be as mentally exhausting as this, but some of them are just going to go kind of straight to TP or relatively in the direction. But once you have these like huge bullish moves against you, like this is just going to fuck up your psychology and make you want to get out of the trade, even though in the end it obviously respected the trade setup. Now on Thursday was when the big expansion for the week happened. And this is where I set limits on EU for a short. So we had a nice setup with a SMT of Asia high. Broke market structure here. Nice displacement down. And then this was also another SMT here with GU. GU formed a lower high. And this was inside a fair value gap as well. I believe also, yeah, in premium of previous day's range too. But I had my limit. This was my limit here at this M5 fair value gap. And the reason for that was because I was using this displacement range here from the raid high to the low. And I saw that premium was inside this fair value gap. Honestly, I probably could have placed my limit here too, but it wouldn't have gotten filled anyway. But I had my limit up here, deep in premium. But I remember ICT always uses the displacement range. So here, even though we had the raid high, we like consolidated, and this was the last swing high before the impulsive displacement down that broke market structure. So that is the range that I should have used. And if I did use that, boom, it came right up here into premium a little bit, hitting the breaker and the fair value gap here. So yeah, that was the entry for Thursday. And then we also had this institutional order flow entry drill, but I didn't expect this to play out because we already took these two levels of liquidity. So this was equal lows here. Yeah, these two, that one and that one. And then this was another set of equal lows with this low and another low from a couple days ago. So I was looking for a power 3 reversal here. There was no fair value gap formed anyway, so there was no trade. But I didn't expect this to continue trading lower after London session. But it ended up trading lower into the fair value gap that, or at least almost to the top of the fair value gap that I was looking at. This one. This fair value gap here. Now Friday gave, in London again, another logical short Asia raid with SMT, displacement down to the fair value gap, targeting equal lows. A lot of these good trades were in Asia this week. In London this week. So after this trade, I was basically this was Friday, and for EU, GU, and most of the other majors, we were forming the low of the week or the high of the week on Friday, which meant I was looking for a weekly Power 3 reversal trade. So for EU and GU, I was looking for longs, and the long setup on EU worked here. Even though we did not form the low of the week here, we ended up coming down even more. So I took a long here on GU. Right. And this one didn't end up playing out. So I thought the low of the week was going to be formed here. We broke market structure up. RTO got in here. And I was targeting the top of this fair value gap, which was in premium of just the daily range, right? To move this back up. There. Yeah. So this was in just at the mean threshold. The comparable trade in EU ended up working out targeting these equal highs, right? And this ended up being an institutional order flow entry drill short, but I would have never looked to short this just because it's Friday, and I was thinking that this was going to be the low of the week, and we trade up and probably just consolidate. The EU trade worked out. I didn't end up taking it. I took the GU just because we had a much more impulsive move up here, and it failed to reach the mean threshold and traded lower. And then we made the low of the day and the week at London, and then this setup ended up playing out, but I didn't take it. And then the same thing for UCAD. I took a short on UCAD as I was in a long in GU, just because we took these equal highs, right? Made high of the week on Friday, took these equal highs here inside a daily fair value gap. That high and that high. Right here, the equal highs, we took it, displacement down, got in at premium here inside this breaker, M5 breaker here, and we ended up forming a bullish setup here. I wasn't at the charts, but if I had been watching this live, I probably would have closed this at break even here. But then we came up, formed the high of the day at 11-ish, formed another setup, and this one played out to the mean threshold of the daily range. So this was just another not super clean day because it formed two setups. And I mean, I've seen, when Friday makes the low of the week or the high of the week, it can do that in early New York and give a power 3 reversal trade there, right? The high of the week or the low of the week I've seen doesn't just have to be at London close for it to give a setup. But here we just had ended up having a fake setup and then the real setup after. So yeah, not really the greatest week, honestly. Even though I had all of this pretty much mapped out from last Sunday. But going into next week, I'm thinking that this high here is going to be on the menu. And then the same thing for EU. ICT said in one of his market commentaries from either the beginning of August or late July that this fair value gap here on EU was going to be like the pivotal point. If we break it, we're going to go for this low. So I'm just going to continue with that, and we broke it here. So that's why I'm targeting this low and DXY the high. We formed this daily fair value gap here, right? Same thing with DXY here, daily fair value gap. So I'm thinking we trade down in here, form the low of the week, and then trade higher. And then in terms of the news, we have really high impact news on Tuesday, euro, pound, and dollar. So I'm thinking the low of the week or the high of the week or comparable high of the week for, foreign currency is going to be formed on Tuesday. But we do have a lot of news this week. But the main high impact news for euro and US dollar is on Tuesday. So that's why I'm thinking that's why we're going to form the low of the week on Tuesday here. So going in on to Monday, I'm probably going to be looking for some type of long setup on EU to end up trading back into this fair value gap, with the ultimate drawn liquidity being this sell side liquidity right there.